Hello, and welcome to the Pest Control Marketing Podcast with your host, me, Hal Coleman, uncensored and unplugged. Pay attention, take lots of notes, because you're going to find out exactly how to get more new customers, more referrals, and grow your business.
Hal Coleman has been active in the pest control industry for over 40 years, including owning and operating his own successful pest control business for 18 years. He now devotes his time to helping other PCOs and other WCOs double, triple, and even quadruple their businesses faster than they ever imagined. Be sure to check out his website, pestcontrolmarketer.com. For more information about Hal's coaching program, you can reach him at 770-993-0004 or email him hal@halcoleman.com. Mike Stewart is known as the Internet audio and video guy. Since the birth of the Internet, Mike has been showing small business owners how to get more new customers, increase their sales, and grow their businesses online using audio and video, now with iPhones and Android phones. For more information about Mike's coaching program and his online training courses, visit MikeStewartCoaching.com or email him mike@internetaudioguide.com.
Well, this is Hal Coleman again, here for another episode of the Pest Control Marketing Podcast, and I'm here with my good friend, mentor, and business partner, Mr. Online Mike Stewart. You there, Mike?
Oh, Hal, I am here, and I am so excited about online things today. There is so much new stuff. Now, a lot of people listen to these podcasts, on demand, but this is January of 2019, and it is a great time to be online and offline.
Well, it is, and I'm going to talk to you. I want to tell you a little story, Mike, and in telling it to you, I'm going to be sharing it with everybody. But our dear friend, the late Larry Latimer, we both worked with for many, many years. I want to tell you about a 5-minute conversation with Larry Latimer that changed my life.
Well, you know what? I want to hear your version, because I want to hear everything you have to say, but I promise you, Larry Latimer was a very special human being to me. He brought us together. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I do.
And more importantly, he said so many things to me that changed my life. So his spirit is with us today, and I forever believe that if it hadn't been for Larry Latimer, I wouldn't have near the things I have in my life.
Same with me.
So this starting 2019 January show is dedicated to our dear friend that should have been a world famous hero, but he is to me.
He is to me too. Like, Mike, it kind of started back on November 16th, 2001. I was inducted into the Atlanta Country Music Hall of Fame. You know that, and it was for 25 years of songwriting and country music and performing in and around the Atlanta area in the Southeast. And during those years, I came in contact with and was, of course, I was a pest control operator during the daytime, but at night and on the weekends, I was a songwriter, and I got to work with a lot of great songwriters, a lot of musicians, a lot of recording artists, including Jerry Reed. I recorded with him on several occasions. He recorded some of my songs. Ray Stevens recorded a couple of my songs. And one of the guys that I met and got to work with was Larry Latimer. Now, Larry was a great songwriter, and Larry used to hire me to sing his demos. And for people that don't know what a demo is, if you write a song and you want to try to get it recorded, first you go into a recording studio and you record the song. And then that's known as a demo. And then you take that recording and you play that recording for high-level producers and recording artists and publishers, and you try to get somebody interested in the song that wants to record it and put it out as a record. So Larry used to get me to sing his demos here in Atlanta because he liked my voice a lot. And that's how we got started together. I was in the pest control business. Larry had an advertising agency and a marketing business during the daytime. His alter ego was his music, as mine was. So Larry and I had this relationship together for quite a few years there. And then The music industry began to change, and my pest control business began to grow, and Larry's marketing business began to grow. Larry and I actually wrote some jingles together and produced them. We did that in your recording studio in Atlanta because you were full-time music back then, and you owned a big, nice recording studio here in Atlanta. But as times began to change and his business grew and my business grew, we kind of drifted apart, and we kind of drifted out of the music business for a lot of years. And I lost contact with Larry for about 15 years. And one day at a mutual friend's funeral, Bill Lowry, who was the president and owner of Southern Tracks Records and Lowry Music in Atlanta, a great legend to all of us, Larry and I ran into each other at Bill Lowry's funeral, and we kind of bumped into each other, and he looked at me and said, "Hal?" I said, "Larry?" And it was funny because we weren't looking at each other's faces. We were looking at each other's hair because our hair had both turned white since we saw each other last time. And we really weren't sure it was us, And we laughed about that, and we started talking, and we decided that we needed to get reconnected. So we planned the next week to meet for coffee at the Waffle House up in Roswell. And so we did. We met about 8 o'clock in the morning, and Larry explained to me that he had sold his advertising business and retired. And he really, really enjoyed his retirement for about 2.5 days. And after that, he decided he wasn't cut out for retirement. So he wanted to get back into the marketing business and advertising business, but he wanted to work with one specific industry only. He just wanted to be a niche marketer. So he was researching some industries to get involved with. And we talked. I said, well, Larry, I've been in the pest control business for 25 years. I know that business up one side and down the other. Why don't you get involved with the pest control industry? And it's like these light bulbs started coming on in our heads at the same time. And we looked at each other. He said, well, tell me about your business, Hal. So I started telling him about my business and what all I did. And he said, how do you market your business? I said, well, I do a little everything. I said, Yellow Pages, I've been in that for years. And I've done some radio and some television. I do a lot of networking. I've done flyers and a little bit of cold calling. He said, well, how's it all worked for you? I said, well, I've spent a fortune on it, Larry, over the years, and I can't say that I have gotten a fortune in return. I don't have a fortune. And I said, but it's just really expensive, but you got to do it. He said, well, I said, some of it I never even made my money back on, and some of it I made some money on. He said, you ever tried direct mail? I said, yeah. I said, that was my biggest failure of all. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I tried some of it, didn't have any luck, but there was a guy who was a really successful advertising agent, had his own business. He was in my Sunday school class, and we were talking one day, and he convinced me to do a direct mail campaign with his company. And I actually paid him $12,000 to design a mail piece, and we sent out thousands of them. And he said, man, this is going to put you on the map. I was so excited. Well, he said I should expect to get maybe a 1 to 2% conversion on my investment. In other words, for every 100 pieces I sent out, I should get 1 or 2 new customers. Well, Mikey, it didn't work out that way. I ended up getting a 0.1% conversion. I didn't even make my money back, much less make any money from it. It was just like $12,000 down the tubes, and I was really disappointed with that. So I was telling Larry this, and he said, well, why do you think it didn't work? I said, well, because I think direct mail doesn't work in the pest control business, I guess. He said, well, that's not it at all, pal. He said, direct mail is awesome. It's one of the most reliable forms of marketing a small business. I said, well, then why didn't it work? He said, well, let me explain to you why it didn't work. I said, no, well, never mind. I said, I'd rather talk about something else. I certainly don't want to talk about direct mail. And he said, well, listen, hear me out. And I almost kind of got the feeling he was going to try to sell me something. So I said, all right. He said, listen, He said, what if I could explain to you in 5 minutes or less why your direct mail didn't work and how you lost a ton of money by doing it wrong? I said, well, Larry, I didn't do it. The dang professional company did it. He said, well, hear me out. He said, will you give me 5 minutes? And he said, at the end of 5 minutes, if you don't want to know any more about it, I'll never mention it again. Is that fair? I said, okay. I set my little stopwatch on my wristwatch, and I said, you got 5 minutes, Larry. Well, in that 5 minutes listening to Larry, it basically changed the course of my life. It led to me selling my pest control business 10 years ago and becoming a full-time sales and marketing coach. That's where that 5-minute conversation ultimately led to. Larry, in that 5 minutes, explained to me why people buy things and what you have to be able to do to sell them things. He explained that you have to have a powerful, dynamic, compelling, seductive, hypnotic, and irresistible message and offer to people if you want them to be inspired to buy from you. And he said 98% of marketing and advertising is dull, boring, unemotional, irrelevant. Some of it's even insulting. And that's why you don't get any response from it. And he said, I tell you what, he said, let's do this. He said, let's set up a direct mail campaign for your pest control business just to prove that what I'm telling you is true. And he said, I'm not going to charge you anything for it. I'll help you do it. I'll show you how to do it. We'll set it up, and all it'll cost you is the postage to send the stuff out. He said, we're not even going to have a nice piece or anything. We're just going to send a letter to people. I said, okay, I'll go along with you there, especially if you're not going to charge them anything. So he said, what two pests or animals or bugs in your business makes the hair stand up on the back of people's necks more than anything? I said, well, probably snakes or rats. He said, well, do y'all do snake treatments and rat treatments? I said, we don't do snake treatments. We'll go get one out of somebody's house or by the yard, but we do a lot of rat treatments. He said, well, do you want to do more rat treatments? I said, oh, heck yeah. I love to doing rat work. So he said, okay, we're going to write a letter to people and tell them about rats and offer to do a free inspection for them and yada yada. So we called it the rat letter. So we sent out 1,000 rat letters to people, homeowners, and that rat letter generated, after all expenses, right down to the dadgum ballpoint pens we used to write the letter, so to speak. Everything considered, that rat letter generated a 250% net profit for me with that campaign. And I was just blown away by it, by the amount of business I sold from that rat letter. Now, here's the thing that was surprising. That rat letter was 11 pages long. 11 pages long. And you know, people would be aghast. They'd say, nobody's going to read an 11-page letter. People are not going to read anything like that. Well, they will if it's powerful, dynamic, and compelling, and seductive, and hypnotic, and irresistible. They'll read it. They won't read it if it's dull, boring, and unemotional, and irrelevant, and maybe even insulting. So learning how, I learned that day in that conversation that the decision maker when it comes to buying something is the subconscious mind, not the conscious mind. And we all know that when you're selling, you want to be speaking directly to the decision maker, because if you're not speaking to the decision maker, you're basically wasting your time. So when you're speaking to somebody, in order to make a sale, you want to be speaking to the decision maker, which is their subconscious mind, not their conscious mind. So Larry taught me in that 5-minute conversation how to speak to the subconscious mind. Now, Mike, that 5-minute conversation turned into a 4.5-hour conversation, and I took about 15 pages of notes as fast as I could write them down. what Larry was telling me that day. And after that, I was on fire because it made so much sense. And when we applied it to the rat letter, the proof was in the pudding, because there it was. The money came in. Now, fast forward about a year later, I began really studying direct response marketing, which is what this is all about. I began reading books. I'd subscribed to newsletters from great direct response marketers. I started going to workshops and seminars, and I started meeting with Larry Latimer once a week. Every Wednesday morning for 4 hours we met for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I just sat there and took notes. Now, we decided to do a big project together for the pest control industry. And right after we got this project started, as you know, Larry became ill. He got sick and went to the hospital, and he passed away. But he had set me on a course where I never looked back. Now, let's fast forward it up, like I said, about a year. It came time for my Yellow Page ad to become due again. Now, this was almost 15 years ago. I was still in the Yellow Pages. Got a lot of business from the Yellow Pages. In the beginning, it was a gold mine, but every year it got less and less because other Yellow Page books popped up. The internet came along. People began to discover ways to market on the internet. So my Yellow Page rep came in one day and he said, he would come in every year. So, how's it going? Well, I'm not getting as much business as I used to. Well, we need to increase the size of your ad. So I would increase the size of my ad. The next year, it's not going as well as it was. Well, we need to add color. So we began increasing the size of the ad and adding color to finally, I had what was known as a double truck ad. That's when you open the Yellow Pages, you've got both pages. You've got the whole thing, both sides of it's a double page ad. And I was in two different Yellow Page books. I was in the Roswell Alpharetta Yellow Page book and the Cumming Dawsonville Yellow Page book. And my Yellow Page bill at that time was $74,000 a year. That's what I paid to be in those two books. And I made money. I really did. So when the Yellow Page rep came around this particular year, I had designed a whole new Yellow Page ad. I was going from a double truck color ad. I decided to drop back down to a half-page non-color ad with just black ink on the Yellow Page, and it was a direct response marketing ad. It was not pretty. It had no graphics. It had nothing. I said, "This is what I want to put in the book." And the guy looked at me. He said, "You're not serious, are you? This is some kind of joke." I said, "No, this is what I want to put in there." He said, "Hal, this is not an ad." I said, "What do you mean it's not an ad?" He said, "It's not an ad." He said, "It looks like some kind of article or something." I said, "Well, that's okay. I'm going to put it in there." He said, "You can't put this in there." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because nobody's going to read any of this stuff, Hal." I said, "Yeah, they will." He said, "Look, the print's too small. They can't even read it." I said, "Well, I checked it. It's bigger than the print in the Bible. It's bigger than the print in the newspaper. They read those things all the time." And he said, "Man," he said, "you might as well flush your money down the toilet." He said, you can't do this." I said, "Well, I'm going to do it." So I sent it to their graphics department, to get a proof. And they sent it back, and they had removed about 75% of what I had on the ad. So I said, "Nope, you're going to put it in there exactly the way I have it, or I'm not going to take the ad out." Well, they changed it again. So I got it formatted in a PDF. I didn't know how to do it, but I took it to my printer. He printed it out in a PDF so they couldn't mess with it. And I sent it in. I said, "It's either this or nothing." So they put that half-page ad in the Yellow Pages. And that book came out. And over the next year, my return on my investment went up a little over 300% from the Yellow Pages, from that little half-page non-color ad. So the next year when my Yellow Page rep came around, and he walked in with that big smile on his face like he'd been doing for the last 15 years, and he said, "How's it going, man?" I said, "I'm having to restrain myself because I'm so pissed off at you." I said, "What I really want to do is just haul off and knock you out of that chair right onto your butt." And he's like, "Wow, what did I do?" I said, it's not what you did, it's what you didn't do. I said, I've been listening to you for 15 years, trusting you to grow my business through the Yellow Pages. And I've been getting bigger ads. I've been doing color ads. I've been getting readers. I've been doing everything you told me to do. And I said, then I put this little simple ad that you told me I was an idiot if I put it in the Yellow Pages, but I did anyway. And I said, my return on my investment has gone up over 300%. I said, now I went back to year one. I've been tracking my Yellow Page business for 15 years, and I've sold somewhere roughly around $860,000 worth of business from the Yellow Pages over the last 15 years. And I said, the way I look at it, I said, if I'd have had this ad in there for all those 15 years, instead of all those expensive color big ads you told me to have, if I'd have had this ad in there the whole time, I said, the way I look at it, you've cost me somewhere around $2.4 million. Business that I would have sold and put in the bank that I didn't because I was using your ads. And he was just sitting there speechless. He said, I don't know what to say. I said, there's nothing you can say. He said, how would I have known that? I said, you would have known it if you had studied it and read the books and studied direct response marketing and done everything I've done for the last year. But I said, you didn't do that. I said, you only know how to sell one thing. And you know how to sell that thing really well, and that is you know how to sell Yellow Page ads. But you don't have a clue how to sell products and services in print, and that's what this is all about. So that was my first experience with really applying what I learned from Larry Latimer in print in a big way. And from that point on, I'm like, pest control people don't know this. Small business people don't know this. This is stuff I've never even heard or contemplated. So that's what set me on the course of really becoming uninterested in managing a business and interested in teaching this stuff to other PCOs and other small business people. And that's what I learned in that 5-minute conversation with Larry Latimer, is that I'd been doing it wrong all of these years. Now, Mike, too, Larry was a problem solver, especially when it came to communication. He seemed to have the answer to everything. He was the best salesman I ever met in my life. He could sell anybody anything, anytime, anywhere, and in whatever quantity he wanted to. And the only criteria was they had to need it. He was an honest salesman. And I'll tell you a little funny story about how he solved a problem for me one time. My uncle passed away, my favorite uncle, and my cousin called me the next morning and asked me if I would. We call him Uncle Bub. He wanted me to sing a song at Uncle Bub's funeral, and I said, "You want me to do what?" He said, "Sing a song at the funeral." And I was just shocked. I said, "Okay, I would be honored to. I'll sing Amazing Grace." He said, "That would be great. That would be great." So I hung up the phone and I thought, oh my gosh, I've never sang at a funeral before. I've never even contemplated it, and now I've got to do it. So I said, I got 3 days here to get ready. So I got my guitar and I started singing Amazing Grace, and I would get halfway through the song and I would just break up and sob. I would be an emotional wreck before I got to the end of the song. I couldn't make it through that song because I would be thinking about singing it and thinking about my uncle. And I couldn't do it. And I said, oh, man, what am I going to do? I can't get up in front of the church and do this. So I'll call Larry. Larry will have a solution. So I called Larry and I said, Larry, I got a problem, man. I need your help. He said, what is it? I said, I got to sing a song at my uncle's funeral in a couple of days. And I'm trying to rehearse the song, and I can't make it through the song because I break down and cry. I get too emotional. What am I going to do? He said, that's a simple fix. Simple fix. I said, really? He said, yeah, no problem. You're going to do great. I said, how? He said, well, what's the setup? I said, well, the setup is I'm going to be sitting there with the family down near the front row, and my guitar is going to be on a guitar stand up there by the pulpit. And I said, when when it's my time, they'll point at me and I'll just walk up there and I'll pick up my guitar, stand there, put the shoulder strap over my shoulder. I'll turn around, I'll face the congregation, and I'll sing the song. He said, okay, here's what you do. When you go up there and you get that guitar and you put it around your neck and you turn around, you face the congregation. He said, I want you to look out at the congregation. I want you to glance out and look at everybody out there. And I want you to imagine that they're all naked. I said, what? He said, I want you to imagine that they're all naked. And he said, trust me, you'll sing that song with a smile on your face and you won't have a bit of problem. I said, oh my God. I started smiling just thinking about it. He said, trust me. So I did. I got up there and when it came my time to sing the song at that funeral, I got up there and I turned around and I looked out at the congregation and I imagined that they were all buck-ass naked. And I sang that song all the way through in fine fiddle with a smile on my face. And then I went over there and sat down and I just fell apart after I sat down. But that was okay. But I made it through the song. And that was the kind of stuff Larry came up with. It was so off the wall, so out in left field. But he knew how to control the human mind and get the proper response out of it. And that's what this is all about. It's about being able to control the subconscious mind, which controls the conscious mind. When it comes to selling, you know, Mark Twain once said the difference between the almost right word and the right word is like the difference between a lightning bug and lightning. Now think about that. The difference between almost right and right is like the difference between a lightning bug and lightning. It's like opening the combination to a safe. The difference between the almost right combination of numbers and the right combination of numbers is the difference in whether the safe opens or it doesn't open. And that's exactly the way the buying vault in your subconscious mind is. The exact right words and phrases and questions and the exact right sequence will cause that buying vault to open up in somebody's brain, and they'll buy from you. They'll say yes. But if you get them wrong or in the wrong, if you get it almost right, then they say things like, well, I don't know. I need to think about this. Let me think it over. I don't know. Looks good, but I need to talk to my wife. I need to talk to my husband. I need to call some more companies. I don't know what to do. I'll call you back. Let me think about it. See, that you've confused them by being almost right and not exactly right. That's what I learned in that 5-minute conversation with Larry Latimer. And you've heard the saying, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said that. Well, not if people don't know you have the mousetrap. And they have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt why your mousetrap is better than everybody else's mousetrap. They have to know that. Just having the best steak in town in and of itself is of no value to you whatsoever, unless people know that you have that steak, and they've got to know beyond a shadow of a doubt why your steak is better than everybody else's steak. And if you do that, people will flock to your door and they will eat in your restaurant. But most businesses, me for many, many years, and I'd say over 98% of businesses market their businesses and they do their selling based on conventional wisdom. And I call conventional wisdom the silent killer. It's the killer of sales and dreams and plans and hopes and relationships. I mean, listen, if you're operating on conventional wisdom, you're going down the wrong course. It's the best example I know of conventional wisdom is this statement. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You've heard that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You see, conventional wisdom is really a collection of worn-out cliches that are specifically designed to explain away failure before it happens. If somebody doesn't buy, if we do a presentation for somebody and they don't buy from us, or we pitch a termite treatment to them or pest control or whatever, and we do everything right, we say, well, I did my presentation, but they didn't buy. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, that's a bunch of crap. Because listen, I can tell you a half a dozen ways to make a horse drink water. You can simply withhold water from him for a day and then lead him to water and he'll drink. You can exercise him for a couple of hours real hard, run him hard, and then when you lead him to water, he'll drink. You can leave him out in the hot sun all day long, and then when you lead him to water, he'll drink. You can feed him a whole ton of sweet feed and then lead him to the water trough and he'll drink. And if none of that works, you can simply take a big handful of salt and rub it in his mouth and he'll drink a ton of water. So if you lead a horse to water and he doesn't drink, is it the horse's fault or is it your fault? You didn't know how to make him thirsty, or you led him to the water at a time when he wasn't thirsty. You see, you got to do it right. You've got to know how to make a horse thirsty, or know when he is going to be thirsty, and then you lead him to the water, and he will drink heartily every single time. So if you lead him to the water and he doesn't drink, simply means you failed because you did it wrong. Don't blame it on the horse. That's what I learned in that 5-minute conversation with Larry Latimer. And that's what I teach to my clients. And it's just so inspiring watching these light bulbs come on in their heads when they begin to see things that they're not doing or that they're doing wrong, and then we begin to apply it to their businesses, and their phone begins to ring and their growth percentage begins to increase, and they get happy, and it's like they're creating multiple streams of new customers, and they can't wait each week to tell me the numbers, what they sold the week before. And it's all about direct response marketing and being able to speak directly to that subconscious mind, and your advertising, your sales presentations on your website, your business cards, your flyers, your brochures, your vehicles, all of that's sending a message out. And if it's almost right, you're getting lightning bugs. But when you get it exactly right, you're getting lightning. And that's what I learned, Mike, in that 5-minute conversation with Larry Latimer, and that's kind of what led me to where I am today. So I just wanted to tell you that story of how all of that evolved. And so I'll shut up now, but I wanted to share that, and I kind of wanted to dedicate it to Larry Latimer. So I'm tired. You talk.
Getting a little echo there. Hold on a second. I know that story partially, and there's lots of things I didn't know, but I knew Larry very, very well. And I can almost give you another variation in another podcast of how Larry affected me in a lot of other different ways, because Larry started his ad agency with me. That ad agency that hired you to do jingles, Larry was involved with me, and I learned a lot from hearing his wisdom. And he was one of the most brilliant direct response marketers I ever met. And he gave me the names of people that I'd never heard of, who I've had the pleasure of becoming acquaintances, friends, and actually speaking on their stages. People like Dan Kennedy, Marlon Sanders. Larry told me about these people. Larry told me about Napoleon Hill, and I'd never heard of Napoleon Hill. And it's amazing all the things that he knew about that made the difference in marketing. So this was a great story. This has probably been our longest podcast because there was just too many golden nuggets to leave out. But speaking of golden nuggets, one of the best ways to get mentored and get the wisdom like Hal got from Larry is to get involved with Hal. And, he's got a phone number where he'll give you an hour of his time, which is like handing you hundreds of dollars of bills, just invaluable to talk to Hal. And I tell people every day that they need to know the wisdom, direct response marketing wisdom of Hal that's taken him years to develop. So call Hal at 770-993-0004 and tell him that you remember Mike saying you need to call and take up your free hour because you need to have a coach and a mentor. You heard what Hal said. He went every Wednesday morning and spent 4 hours a week with Larry to learn these things. So what are you doing? And something that you told me in this message that I had no idea. You spent $74,000 a year on an ad that you could only correct once a year.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it?
In the internet world, that's called insanity. Basically,
this was kind of prior to the internet really getting cranked up.
I know. And we could do a whole episode on the Yellow Pages and Google. And in fact, it's interesting. Just today, one of our good students, I'm not going to name names to protect the innocent, but he is firing YP.com because unfortunately their cheese got moved when Google came along. The Yellow Pages are not, I don't have a yellow book in my house, and I would say more and more people don't. And I'm sorry, I'm not slandering the Yellow Pages. The Yellow Pages was a media, and Google is a media, and the internet is a media, and medias improve and change, and you embrace medias and use them to your fullest, the most cost-effective way to get your marketing message out. But marketing messages and marketing psychologies have not ever changed. The medias have changed. And so online media is just a way to get your message out. But the principles that you talked about and that Larry talked about in direct response, they haven't changed. Oh my gosh, everywhere you talked about Yellow Page ad, I could have said website. Yeah. So I'm trying to hold back because I got 1,000 things I'd like to talk about. So we'll save it for another episode. Call Hal at 770-993-0004. And if you want to spend an hour with me, I just did it the other day with a PCO, and he went, oh my God, not knowing. You don't know what you don't know. Call me at 770-826-3662. But I got to get out of here because...
I do too, but I got one more thing, Mike.
What's that?
In case you're interested, listen, I got a used set of World Book encyclopedias. I'll let you have them cheap. And there's a world of information in there.
Well, how good do they burn?
I don't know, but that'll probably be my last resort. Listen, I enjoyed this, Mike. We got to get out of here, so can't wait to record the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast in iTunes and on your phones and in Stitcher on your Android. But more importantly, go to our website, pestcontrolmarketingpodcast.com. Subscribe to our email list to always be notified of new episodes. You're never going to want to miss what we got coming up next, and you never know what we're going to be able to do to help you with your pest control marketing.